Old Hollywood looked perfect. Glittering gowns caught the light just so. Smooth tuxedos hugged leading men like second skin. Movie stars who never seemed to sweat, never seemed to age, never seemed to be anything less than divine. But behind the perfume, the cigarette smoke, and the studio lighting, some of the most glamorous legends were a little less fresh than you'd imagine. Picture this, it's 1939. The cameras are rolling. The air conditioning doesn't exist yet. Stage lights burn at 120 degrees. Actors wear wool suits and corsets for 16-hour days. Deodorant is still a new, suspicious invention. Most people bathe once or twice a week, that's normal. And perfume? Perfume isn't subtle. It's a weapon. These classic Hollywood stars hid bad hygiene behind million-dollar smiles, designer perfume, and camera tricks. Their beauty was flawless on screen. Their smell? Not so much. We're talking about an era when makeup was made with actual lead. When bleaching your hair meant mixing ammonia with peroxide in your kitchen sink. When method acting sometimes meant not showering for authenticity. The golden age of cinema had a very specific scent: grease paint, cold cream, cigarette smoke, and occasionally the unmistakable aroma of someone who'd been working 18 hours straight under burning lights. Studios knew the truth. Co-stars whispered about it. Makeup artists complained. But the camera? The camera kept the secret. Until now. From leading men with legendary breath to screen sirens who replaced soap with Chanel, these are 16 Golden Age icons who look divine on screen, but didn't always smell that way. Let's pull back the velvet curtain on old Hollywood, secrets you never knew existed. Clark Gable, the king with a breath problem. He was the king of Hollywood, the most desired man in America. One look from Clark Gable could make audiences swoon. One breath from Clark Gable? That was another story. Gable suffered from severe gum disease in the early 1930s. By 1933, most of his teeth were gone. He wore dentures for the rest of his career. And according to biographers and co-stars, those dentures came with a problem: halitosis that could clear a room. Vivien Leigh reportedly complained about kissing scenes. Other actresses learned to hold their breath during romantic close-ups. The irony: Gable was obsessed with cleanliness in every other way. Multiple showers per day. Fresh bed sheets constantly. Impeccable grooming. He understood hygiene everywhere except the one place that mattered most when you're Hollywood's greatest romantic lead. Studios worked around it. Directors shot kissing scenes quickly. Cameramen learned the angles that suggested passion without requiring extended proximity. And audiences never knew that the man they fantasized about was someone you absolutely did not want to get too close to. His smile was million-dollar perfect. What came out of that smile was considerably less valuable. Clark Gable was unforgettable in more ways than one. Jean Harlow, platinum that stank up the set. Jean Harlow invented platinum blonde. That iconic white gold hair became her signature, her trademark, her ticket to stardom. It also smelled like a chemical factory. Harlow's stylist revealed the recipe years later: peroxide, ammonia, Clorox bleach, and Lux soap flakes. Mixed weekly. Applied for hours. The results were stunning. The process was toxic. Under hot studio lights, that chemical cocktail released fumes that made crew members step back. Co-stars mentioned it carefully in interviews decades later. Jean's hair was beautiful, they'd say, pausing meaningfully. But the process was intense. She knew the cost. Beauty in old Hollywood wasn't about being natural. It was about creating an illusion so powerful that audiences couldn't look away. If that meant smelling like a bleach factory between takes, so be it. The camera only captured the result, that impossible shimmer, that otherworldly glow. Jean Harlow died at 26. Her hair remained perfect until the end. The smell of ammonia became part of her legend, whispered about but never captured on film. Platinum came at a price, and everyone within 10 feet paid it. Humphrey Bogart, a cigarette you could smell. Bogart didn't just smoke on camera. He became the cigarette. Watch Casablanca. Watch The Maltese Falcon. Watch anything Bogart made. There's always a cigarette. Always that curl of smoke. It wasn't just character work. It was Bogart's rhythm. His pacing. His way of thinking between lines. He chain smoked through every scene, every take, every rehearsal. The smoke clung to his clothes. It saturated his hair. It became his signature scent, a mixture of tobacco, whiskey, and that indefinable Bogart cool that women found irresistible and men wanted to emulate. Co-stars learned to expect it. Directors wrote it into scenes. Audiences associated that smoky presence with everything Bogart represented: danger, mystery, world-weary charm. He smelled like a bar at 3 a.m., like a detective's office, like film noir itself. Later, that same cigarette habit would kill him. Esophageal cancer at 57. But during his golden years, that constant cloud of smoke wasn't a warning. It was atmosphere. It was Bogart being Bogart, one Chesterfield after another, creating a persona you could smell from across the soundstage. He was the scent of classic Hollywood, tobacco and tragedy, lighting another cigarette in the dark. Joan Crawford, Mrs. Clean, the flip side. Not everyone on this list neglected hygiene. Some took it to the opposite extreme. Joan Crawford didn't have a cleanliness problem. She had a cleanliness obsession. Everything in her home was covered in plastic slipcovers. Carpets were vacuumed multiple times daily. She carried disinfectant spray in her purse. Co-stars reported that she'd wipe down chairs before sitting. Scripts had to be pristine, no bent corners, no coffee stains, no fingerprints. Her dressing room was legendary. White gloves to check for dust. Specific rituals for how makeup had to be arranged. Rules about who could touch what. Her perfectionism extended from her career to every surface in her life. Biographers suggest it was control. Studios controlled her image, her contracts, her persona. But her environment, that she could dominate completely. Every disinfected surface was a small victory against chaos. The irony is that Crawford became just as memorable for her hygiene as stars who ignore it entirely. Different problem, same result, everyone noticed. Her home sparkled. Her image remained immaculate. But the obsession revealed the pressure behind that perfect facade. Perfection on screen and perfection at home, with the plastic wrap to prove it. Rita Hayworth, olive oil glam. Rita Hayworth's hair was legendary. That rich auburn cascade. That perfect shine. That bounce that seemed to move in slow motion. The secret? Olive oil. Lots of it. Vintage beauty advice from the 1940s recommended oil treatments for shine. Hayworth followed the routine religiously. Before studio sessions, she'd saturate her hair in oil for hours. The result on camera was spectacular, that glossy perfection audiences associated with Hollywood glamour. The result under studio lights was less spectacular. Hot lights plus olive oil equals a very specific, very noticeable kitchen smell. Makeup artists worked around it. Hairstylists perfected the timing. Oil treatment early, thorough washing, then final styling before cameras rolled. But during those marathon shooting days, during those 16-hour stretches under burning lights, that smell had a way of returning. Hayworth never apologized for it. This was the beauty routine that made her a star. If co-stars noticed, they kept it to themselves. The camera captured the result, that impossible shine, that movie star hair. Years later, beauty magazines would publish the same olive oil advice. Vintage Hollywood secrets, they'd call it. They rarely mentioned what those secrets smelled like at noon on a closed soundstage. She was gorgeous and glamorous and smelled faintly of a very expensive salad. Marlene Dietrich, perfume as armor. Marlene Dietrich didn't just wear perfume. She weaponized it. Her signature scent arrived before she did. It lingered after she left. Co-stars describe her presence as overwhelming, not because of her talent, though that was considerable, but because her perfume announced her entrance like a trumpet fanfare. She favored heavy, complex fragrances. Krigler's Pleasure Gardenia 79. Custom blends that cost more than most people's monthly salary. Scents that didn't whisper, they declared. In Dietrich's era, perfume wasn't about subtlety. It was about creating an aura, an atmosphere, a presence that couldn't be ignored. She understood that stardom wasn't just visual, it was sensory. Audiences couldn't smell her through the screen, but everyone who worked with her remembered that signature sea of for decades. Some loved it, others found it overwhelming, but everyone agreed you always knew when Dietrich was nearby. She built her mystique on androgyny, on that smoky voice, on perfect tailoring and calculated mystery. The perfume was part of that armor. Another layer between Marlene Dietrich the woman and Marlene Dietrich the legend. You couldn't touch the legend, but you could certainly smell her coming. Her presence filled the room, visually, vocally, and olfactorily. Greta Garbo, Vaseline eyes and quiet scents. Greta Garbo wanted to be alone, famously perpetually alone. She achieved that partly through talent, and partly through mystique, and partly through beauty tricks that kept people at a careful distance. Garbo's signature glowing eyes came from petroleum jelly. She'd apply Vaseline to her eyelids before filming. The result on camera was extraordinary, that otherworldly shine, that dreamy quality that made her look like she existed in a different dimension from ordinary mortals. The result in person was greasier, more noticeable, the kind of beauty hack that works brilliantly on film and less brilliantly in close proximity. Biographers note her preference for minimal grooming when not filming. She valued comfort over conventional beauty routines, privacy over social expectations, time alone over time with hairstylists and makeup artists fussing over details. Her aloofness became legendary. Some of it was temperament, some was carefully cultivated mystery, and some might have been practical. When you're using petroleum products on your face daily, maintaining distance makes sense. Garbo retired at 35 and spent the next 50 years avoiding the public. She protected her mystique completely. No one got close enough to spoil the illusion. She wanted to be alone and smelled mysterious enough that everyone obliged. Errol Flynn, the sweat of adventure. Errol Flynn lived hard, partied harder, then showed up for work in wool pirate costumes under blazing studio lights. His roles were physical, sword fights, ship battles, athletic sequences that required take after take after take. The costumes were heavy, the lights were merciless. And Flynn's lifestyle, late nights, lots of drinking, minimal sleep, meant he often arrived on set not quite fresh. Co-stars euphemistically mentioned his energetic lifestyle. Studios carefully scheduled his scenes for early in the day when possible. Wardrobe departments kept multiple copies of costumes because Flynn sweat through them quickly. But here's what made Flynn fascinating. Audiences loved it. That slightly rough, lived-in quality translated to screen as authenticity. He looked like he'd actually been on adventures because in some ways he had. The sweat was real. The exhaustion was real. The morning after energy that fueled his performances was very, very real. Flynn burned bright and burned out fast. Dead at 50, having lived several lifetimes worth of experiences. His hygiene suffered from his lifestyle, but his charisma never did. He smelled like adventure, sweat, seawater, and consequences. Bette Davis, cold cream cloud. Bette Davis belonged to the old school, the theater school. The school that said real actresses remove their stage makeup with cold cream. Lots of cold cream. Old Hollywood cold cream didn't mess around. Pond's cold cream. Noxema. Heavy, fragrant formulas that removed makeup effectively and left behind a distinctive scent, medicinal, floral, unmistakable. Davis used it religiously. After every scene, every day, every shoot. That cloud of cold cream became as much her signature as those enormous eyes and that sharp delivery. Younger actresses in the 1950s started switching to newer products. Modern makeup removers. More subtle scents. But Davis stuck with her routine. She'd been doing it since the 1930s. It worked. Why change? The result was that working with Bette Davis meant working in a subtle fog of vintage beauty products. Co-stars could tell which dressing room was hers before seeing the name on the door. She made over 100 films in her career. That's a lot of cold cream. A lot of that particular old Hollywood scent that meant serious actresses taking their craft seriously, one thorough face cleaning at a time. Glamorous, stubborn, and smelling exactly like 1942. Laurence Olivier, grease paint that never left. Laurence Olivier didn't just act. He transformed. For his role as Richard III, he wore a prosthetic nose made of mortician's wax. For other roles, layers of grease paint, built-up prosthetics, elaborate makeup that took hours to apply. And here's the dedication part. He'd sleep in it. Olivier believed in staying in character. If that meant going home in full makeup, sleeping in full makeup, waking up and adding more makeup, then that's what he did. The smell of grease paint became his personal atmosphere during filming, that distinctive theatrical scent of cold cream base, powder, and spirit gum. Co-stars mentioned it carefully. You didn't question Olivier's methods. He was too brilliant, too respected, too committed to his craft. If he smelled like a makeup kit, well, that was the price of genius. Theater-trained actors understood. Film actors found it eccentric. Audiences never knew. They just saw the transformations, Olivier disappearing completely into roles, becoming unrecognizable, creating performances that redefined what acting could be. The grease paint was part of the process. The smell was part of the art. He was genius in grease paint, in equal measure, and everyone adjusted. Charlie Chaplin, perfection, and 342 takes. Charlie Chaplin was a perfectionist, not the efficient kind, the obsessive kind. For one scene in City Lights, he shot 342 takes. For the gold rush, filming stretched for months. Take after take after take, in wool suits, under hot lights, doing physical comedy that required full-body commitment. The tramp's costume was iconic: baggy pants, tight jacket, that perfect bowler hat. It was also wool. Heavy wool. In studios without air conditioning. During shoots that lasted for hours, then days, then weeks. By take 200, everyone on set smelled like work. Hard work. The kind of work where you've been wearing the same costume since sunrise and it's now sunset, and you're still going because Chaplin sees something in his mind that isn't quite on film yet. His crew adored him and complained about him in equal measure. Yes, the results were brilliant. Yes, he created masterpieces. But also yes, those masterpieces smelled like sweat and determination by the time they were finished. Chaplin created cinema. In the process, he and everyone around him created a very specific scent, the smell of genius refusing to compromise. Perfection on screen, perseverance on set, and a whole lot of wool. Marlon Brando method. And natural grooming. Marlon Brando changed acting forever. He brought naturalism, reality, raw emotion, and reportedly a very natural approach to grooming. Industry stories, told carefully with affection, suggest Brando wasn't overly concerned with conventional hygiene. He showed up to set in rumpled clothes. Co-workers mentioned his earthy presence. Directors learned to work around his unconventional approach to, well, everything. This was method acting taken seriously. Brando wanted authenticity. He wanted to feel real. If that meant showing up not quite fresh, not quite polished, then that's what it meant. The thing is, it worked. His performances were electric, revolutionary. He made other actors look artificial by comparison. Audiences couldn't look away. Critics called him the greatest actor of his generation. So studios adapted. Co-stars adapted. The industry adapted. Because talent like Brando's didn't come around often. If his method included a looser interpretation of personal grooming, that was a small price for genius. Years later, those same co-stars would tell these stories with fondness. That was Brando, they'd say, shaking their heads with affection. Brilliant and completely himself. Method acting with method smells, and nobody dared complain. Ava Gardner, barefoot aura. Ava Gardner was Hollywood's most beautiful woman. The studio said so. The public agreed. But she never quite believed it herself. Her signature look off screen? Barefoot. Casual. Earthy. She hated the studio system's obsession with polish. The constant grooming, the rigid beauty routines, the expectation that stars should look perfect every moment. So when cameras weren't rolling, Gardner kicked off her shoes. Literally, she walked around barefoot, resisted the full makeup routine, preferred comfort to glamour whenever possible. Co-stars described her as having a natural presence, a free spirit, someone who smelled like fresh air and freedom rather than Chanel and hairspray. Hollywood didn't quite know what to do with this. Here was their most beautiful star, actively resisting the very system that made her famous. But Gardner's talent matched her beauty, and her earthy authenticity made her performances more compelling. She lived life on her terms. Multiple marriages, legendary romances, a career that spanned 5 decades. And through it all, that preference for going barefoot, for being comfortable, for being herself rather than Hollywood's version of herself. The barefoot Contessa, stunning, stubborn, and smelling like freedom. Elizabeth Taylor. Smoke plus scent equals diva trail. Elizabeth Taylor entered a room before she arrived. Her perfume announced her. Her presence confirmed it. Taylor wore heavy fragrances. Bold, unmistakable scents that clung to everything, furniture, co-stars, the air itself. Later, she'd launch White Diamonds, a perfume empire built on that same philosophy. Subtlety is for amateurs. Add to that her legendary smoking habit. Packs per day for decades. The combination of heavy perfume and cigarette smoke created a signature aura that everyone who worked with her remembered. You knew when Elizabeth Taylor had been in a room. The scent lingered like her legend. Studios loved her. Co-stars were intimidated by her. Audiences worshipped her. And everyone agreed. Her presence was overwhelming in the best and most literal sense. She lived large. Married 8 times. Wore jewels worth millions. Made demands that would end lesser careers. But she could because she was Elizabeth Taylor, more beautiful, more talented, more everything than almost anyone else in Hollywood history. The perfume and smoke were part of that. Part of being so present, so undeniable, that you couldn't ignore her even if you wanted to. She was a diva in the classical sense, divine, magnificent, and unavoidably fragrant. Montgomery Clift, beauty undone by exhaustion. Montgomery Clift was beautiful, heartbreakingly beautiful, the kind of face that made directors weep with gratitude. And then life got hard. After his devastating 1956 car accident, after the pain and the medication and the struggles that followed, Clift's grooming slipped. Not because he didn't care, because caring took energy he didn't always have. Friends described him arriving on set rumpled, disheveled, the perfect beauty of his early career replaced by something more fragile, more human, more heartbreaking. Studios didn't know how to handle it. Here was a massive star, one of the greatest actors of his generation, clearly struggling. But Clift's talent remained extraordinary even as his grooming became less consistent. Co-stars treated him gently. Directors worked around his difficult days. Hollywood whispered about his problems, but kept filming because his performances were still remarkable. The tragedy of Montgomery Clift wasn't about hygiene. It was about pressure and pain and a system that consumed its most sensitive talents. The neglected grooming was just a symptom of larger struggles. Beauty undone by pressure, but the talent never faded, even when everything else did. W.C. Fields, the boozy aroma of comedy. W.C. Fields was funny. Brilliantly, darkly, cynically funny. He was also, by his own admission and everyone else's observation, a dedicated drinker. His signature scent wasn't cologne. It was gin. Martinis at breakfast. Flask in his pocket. The perpetual aroma of someone who'd found his comfort in bottles and made no apologies for it. Studios knew. Co-stars knew. Audiences probably suspected. But Fields was too talented, too unique, too valuable to lose over something as trivial as constant drinking. His comedy was genius. His timing was perfect. His persona was unforgettable. The booze became part of the legend. Never work with children or animals, he famously said. Never be sober either, he might have added. Biographers later documented his complicated relationship with alcohol, the pain he was self-medicating, the pressure he was escaping. But during his golden years, that gin-soaked aroma was just Fields being Fields. He made dozens of films, created a comedy style that influenced generations, and did it all trailing the unmistakable scent of someone who'd rather be holding a cocktail than a script. The smell of comedy and consequences, funny and tragic, in equal measure. Behind every flawless close-up was a room full of cigarette smoke, sweat, and perfume strong enough to knock out a camera crew. Old Hollywood wasn't really cleaner or more glamorous than modern Hollywood. They just did it better. The camera captured beauty. The crew dealt with reality. These 16 stars, legendary, talented, unforgettable, were products of their time. Deodorant was still new and slightly suspicious. Most people bathed twice weekly. Air conditioning on sets didn't exist. Makeup was made with lead and grease. Hair products smelled like chemicals. And perfume wasn't subtle. It was survival. Studios created illusions. Perfect faces, perfect bodies, perfect love stories. But they couldn't create perfect smells. That was beyond even Hollywood's magic. What's remarkable isn't that these stars had hygiene issues. What's remarkable is that they created performances so powerful, images so iconic, that we still talk about them 90 years later. The smell faded. The legend remained. Clark Gable's breath, Jean Harlow's chemical hair, Bogart's cigarettes, Rita's olive oil, Dietrich's overwhelming perfume. These aren't flaws that diminish their greatness. They're human details that make their achievements more impressive. They were uncomfortable, sweaty, smelling like grease paint and hard work, creating art under impossible conditions. And they did it brilliantly. So next time someone says they were born in the wrong era, remind them, old Hollywood didn't always smell like roses. It smelled like work, like ambition, like smoke and cold cream, and the determination to look perfect no matter what it took. These classic Hollywood scandals and vintage beauty routines came with a price. But the result was cinema history. The kind of glamour that still captivates us, still inspires us, still makes us believe in movie magic. Even if that magic occasionally smelled like a mixture of gin, grease paint, and olive oil. The golden age of cinema had a very specific scent, and it was absolutely worth it.